flurry of violence as Baltimore sees 12 people shot in 12 hours. An expert shares how bad the strain on city police has gotten.
No one available at this time.
As the department struggles to fill hundreds of vacancies. A hearing set to address a myriad of city schools with 0 students who were tested proficient in math.
This is just a dog and pony show.
Why a former teacher thinks nothing will come of it.
We ask you a couple questions about your department removing test scores from the website.
Plus, Fox 45 News Project Baltimore presses school leaders for transparency on test scores.
I feel like a prisoner.
Then a Baltimore woman afraid to leave her home after a slew of open-air drug markets invade her quiet neighborhood. We make her voice heard in our exclusive interview.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Fox 45 News demanding answers tonight after a violent 24 hours in parts of Baltimore. 13 people shot, one of them died.
The latest shooting happened in North Baltimore just around 2 o'clock this afternoon. An 18-year-old was hurt.
12 of those shootings happened within 12 hours of each other. You're taking a look at just some of those scenes. One shooting last night left 3 people wounded, including a 14-year-old boy.
It happened in a Safe Street zone hours after city leaders gathered in the same area to tout some success when it comes to gun violence.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost pressed the mayor for answers on that shooting and the overall violence in parts of Baltimore.
Our team coverage begins with Keith Daniels, and he's at Baltimore City Police headquarters with a look at the role the officer shortage is playing. Keith?
Well, Kai, the City Police Union president, Sergeant Mike Mancuso, called it a, quote, chaotic day and night for his officers. He said they did a great job, but they are exhausted and overworked. And tonight, a closer look at that violent Tuesday and the police response. The unrelenting gun violence in Baltimore City. One shooting every hour. In all, 12 people shot within 12 hours. A bleak period Tuesday from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. Shootings reported across the city in the east, west, north, and south, with the police department struggling to keep up, stretching an already short staff. Listen to the dispatchers.
Wagon person isn't in yet. They're on overtime.
Adam shift units come in clear, guys. Still holding 7 calls, or 3 priority ones. They have no one available at this time.
Critical words, but emblematic of the department's uniform patrol unit that's nearly 500 officers down. Former Baltimore Deputy Police Commissioner Jason Johnson.
Say it is a crisis at this point, but it's been a long time coming.
On the current police shortage and how it potentially fuels the city's crime crisis.
Well, because the BPD does not have the ability to deliver the resources necessary to reduce crime and to, create a sense of safety, which is fundamentally what police departments do. They don't have adequate staffing to do that.
Police Commissioner Michael Harrison says they are getting the job done, but with fewer officers using overtime to, quote, flex the size of the department. Johnson calls overtime critical, but concerning.
It's mandatory. It's not optional. This is not an opportunity for officers to increase their income. In many cases, they would prefer to go home and spend time with their family, but they're kept in these long, day-long shifts, which can in itself be dangerous.
In Tuesday's shooting spree, 11 of the victims are expected to survive, but a 28-year-old man was killed in West Baltimore just minutes after a triple shooting injured a 14-year-old boy. Dozens of yellow evidence markers dot the scene where the teen was struck. No word yet of suspects in any of these shootings. Well, according to the city's police union, currently there are about 600 officers assigned to the city's 9 patrol districts, with only about 10 to 14 officers working per district, per shift on the streets. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. Fox 45 News continues to dig deeper into the officer shortage. A former Baltimore police officer who served for decades shares why he believes the department is losing more personnel than they can hire. That exclusive interview is tomorrow night, right here on Fox 45 News at 10.
And as we mentioned, one of last night's shootings happened in a Safe Streets zone. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost pressed the mayor on the Safe Streets program today.
Mayor Brandon Scott says he has unwavering support for the Safe Streets program, noting the city continues to fund the Baltimore Police Department, even though we routinely see homicides and shootings pop up all over the city. And the mayor says the same should be true for Safe Streets. It's sunny along Orleans Street now, with only fragments of crime scene tape giving away what happened just the evening before.
Orleans Street, 32 rounds.
Where evidence markers plot out a shooting scene. 3 people shot, including a 14-year-old boy. Zooming out on the neighborhood, you'll see this shooting scene is in the middle of the McKeldrey Park Safe Street zone.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here.
The same area where just hours before the shooting.
Let's talk about Safe Streets.
Shante Jackson, the director of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, along with Mayor Brandon Scott, announcing additional infusions of $5 million to the city's gun violence intervention program, Safe Streets. Throughout our investigation over the last year and a half into the program, we found few oversight measures in place, lax accountability, and transparency struggles. After threatening to sue the city over public information, the city handing over hundreds of pages of contracts between Baltimore and the community-based organizations operating the 10 different Safe Streets locations, like LifeBridge and Catholic Charities, now the only 2 CBOs after the mayor restructured the patchwork of management system. In those documents, we found the locations have petty cash stashes, but we don't know how that money is being spent.
Good afternoon, everyone.
At a community event Wednesday, we pressed the mayor.
Why should the city trust you when you say that this new $5 million investment on top of the funding for Safe Streets will actually make a difference when on the same day we saw 3 people shot?
Well, I think the residents of Baltimore are a little smarter than to think about it in that sense, right?
Again, touting this Johns Hopkins report showing some decreases in homicides and non-fatal shootings in some of the Safe Street zones, but not everywhere. And the city failing to mention Baltimore paid nearly $145,000 for the study in the first place.
That we have to continue to focus on why in the hell people are doing these kind of things to each other over small things.
As for the cash at each location,
do you know where the petty cash is being spent? And your team ignored our questions about setting up an...
We didn't ignore your questions, Mackenzie.
You did.
I'll say this to the residents again. We know you guys like to play games on TV and make it look like we're escaping you. Safe Streets work. The information about Safe Streets is out there. We're working with partners like LifeBridge and Catholic Charities, and we work with partners who have impeccable financial records over history. When you think about LifeBridge and Sinai Hospital and all the things they do in Baltimore and everywhere they operate, anyone to say that they are using city funds or even hinting at that in a wrong way is being very disrespectful.
We just don't know how they're being spent. Will you do an interview with us about it?
Thank you, Mackenzie. Thank you.
The mayor's car pulling away. The mayor not giving an answer about how the petty cash is being spent, who has the receipts, or an update on that interview request. All while the gun violence continues in Baltimore, like at Orleans and Montford, where Tuesday night's crime scene tape now balled up in the trash. People walk the street, marked by blood, looking to live another day. The city continues to ignore our questions about funding and how that money is being spent within the Safe Streets program. And again, we've asked Shante Jackson for an interview to talk about Safe Streets for months. She's refused to do so, but if she changes her mind, we'll get it scheduled. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
And while the number of homicides this year have been down so far, there are concerns that deadly violence will increase during the warmer months, as we've seen in past summers. Historically, crime picks up in the spring and the summer. And this month, no exception. April alone accounts for 33% of shootings in 2023 so far. 24 people have been killed. January is the only deadlier month this year. Now, this April is also on pace with the past 5 years when it comes to homicides. So far, we have seen more murders than April 2020 and 2019, and there are still 4 days in the month left.
Fox 45 News will continue to report on the deadly violence and hold elected leaders accountable. You can follow along on air and on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
And around here, the big story is, guess what? Some rain. Take a look on the HD radar. Manchester to West Mannheim, all the way back to Shrewsbury. and also Norrisville. You are seeing some showers, and then we zoom out a little bit. There's a good shot of some rain that's down south and west of Baltimore on 95. So again, we are tracking all of this all night as this continues to weaken and wane into the wee hours of tomorrow morning. Notice tomorrow clears out, but look what happens into Friday. More rain's going to be coming our way. I'm going to let you know how bad it's going to be and how much it's going to mess up your weekend in a couple of minutes.
An investigation which you saw first on Fox will be front and center at City Hall during a hearing tomorrow. City school administrators will attempt to explain why 23 schools had no students who were tested score proficient in math. And some are skeptical about tomorrow's hearing after a similar one was scheduled in 2021 following Project Baltimore's reporting on ghost students and grade changing at Augusta Fells. Listen to some of the questions asked then.
Curious how we're doing around stocking soap in all of our schools.
How do we get great, wonderful, supportive teachers?
From your perspective, what do we mean by organizational excellence?
No council member mentioned Augusta Fells by name. Tonight, Fox 45's Jeff Abel joins us live with a preview of tomorrow's hearing. Jeff?
Well, until now, school administrators have not publicly explained why so many students are scoring so poorly in math. But now, some 2 months after the news surfaced, City Hall is looking for answers.
The school system was better 55 years ago than it is today.
Parents began turning up the volume months ago, complaining about failures in the Baltimore City school system.
Uneducated person does uneducated things, and we got to educate.
Baltimore City's math scores were the lowest in the state.
2 months ago, a Project Baltimore investigation revealed just how many students have fallen behind.
In 23 Baltimore City schools, there were 0 students who tested proficient in math.
When a school is failing like that, let's roll into the school system 30 and 40 deep, men and women, and fix it.
Tomorrow, members of a city council committee will convene to discuss students' math scores, and they've summoned school administrators to City Hall to explain.
For me, this is just a dog and pony show.
Michael Johnson is a product of the city schools and a retired teacher of the city schools. He believes tomorrow's City Hall hearing will produce more talk than action.
But if you just want to sit around and just talk about it, then at least come talk about it in the communities.
Earlier today, we emailed council members about their intentions, asking who do you hold accountable? How long do you anticipate it will take for student math scores to improve? And what is your message to parents who have children attending these 23 schools? So far, no one has responded. Johnson is convinced the hearing will end with little action. Students, he fears, will continue to suffer.
I think the city council could stand up and say, we have a problem and that we need to have it fixed. But in the end of the game, they're not going to do jack.
Well, the council's Education, Workforce, and Youth Committee will convene tomorrow's hearing at City Hall at 5 o'clock. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Jeff. We want to hear from you. Do you trust city council members to ask tough questions of school leaders? The poll just opened. So far, 100% of those who voted say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Next, we continue to hold school leaders accountable. Project Baltimore investigates why detailed results of standardized tests have disappeared online. Our attempts to interview the state school superintendent as the Board of Education's president gives his explanation why the numbers are no longer available to parents. One resident says drug dealers have taken over her neighborhood despite calls to police. We make her fears heard. A Prince George's County man accused of murder. His father says his son is innocent, but also blames a lack of accountability when it comes to car thefts. Tonight, Project Baltimore pressing state leaders for answers after school test results were removed, redacted, then reposted on the state's website.
As Project Baltimore's Chris Pabst explains, the state superintendent refuses to answer our questions.
Busing for not just our bus zone.
Project Baltimore went to this Maryland Board of Education meeting to speak with State Superintendent Mohammed Chaudhry about state test scores taken down after we began reporting the results.
Mr. Chaudhry, Chris Pabst with FOX45. Can we ask you a couple questions about your department removing test scores from the website?
Instead, he shut the door and locked it.
Your statement said that you value the media and you want to talk to the media, sir?
After Chaudhry dodged our questions,
President Crawford?
Yes, I'd like to say something.
We turned to the board president, Clarence Crawford.
For one, we appreciate you coming. We appreciate the coverage.
But when we started asking Crawford questions, it appeared he knew very little about what was happening.
Did you know the data was going to be adjusted?
No, because that's part of its operation.
You're the president of the school board?
That
You
is
didn't know?
That is operations.
It is being called a scandal and a cover-up.
It's now been over a week since Project Baltimore broke the news. The Maryland State Department of Education changed how it reports test scores to the public, hiding much of the data behind asterisks and making it more difficult for parents and taxpayers to see how schools are performing. The data was originally posted online in January, then removed. A redacted version was reposted after Project Baltimore reported on 23 Baltimore City schools with 0 students who tested proficient in math. The decision triggered a strong reaction, many calling on the state superintendent to address it.
Hold a press conference.
That's it.
Hold a press
Come
conference.
on the air.
Go do an interview.
You came on with us, Muhammad showed you when you first got here. Haven't been on since. Come on, what's there to hide?
MSDE has not agreed to an interview, but said in a statement it's using enhanced de-identification to protect student privacy because of learning challenges presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. But not everyone is buying that argument. The Maryland Public Policy Institute called it a cover-up, and earlier this week sent this letter to the Inspector General for Education requesting an investigation into whether any state or federal laws have been violated. Also, a petition calling on the state superintendent to resign is now nearing its goal of 2,500 signatures on change.org. 8 Maryland delegates have also signed multiple letters calling on MSDE to further explain why the data was removed from the state's website.
I had no idea that was what happened, and it's dishonest. It's hiding the ball. It's hiding the truth from parents.
Do you approve of the change?
From what I understand, yes.
You believe in giving less information to parents and taxpayers?
No, we believe in giving proper information. So what they did was
the past 13 years, you've been reporting this data the same way. You're saying that MSD has been improper for the past 13 years? This is how they've been reporting the data for 13 years, sir. They just changed last month.
We stand with the superintendent.
Last week, Superintendent Chaudhry's office issued this 3-page letter concerning our reporting. At least 6 times, this letter said changing the data was federally required. But the U.S. Department of Education's website offers guidelines, not mandates, for protecting student privacy and says these decisions are left up to the individual state. So we asked Crawford about that.
We have our position. You have our position in writing. So again, we encourage you to continue to report. We're happy to have you report.
We then asked why the data was only redacted for the state's lowest performing schools.
If your argument is student privacy, doesn't the privacy of the highest performing schools matter too?
We are, again, I'm going to refer you to the document from the superintendent.
It doesn't answer any of these questions, and we've asked them.
Okay.
It doesn't answer any of them.
Transformative education for the children in the state of Maryland. That is our priority. That's what we're all about, and we invite you to come and to see what we're doing and to share the information. And again, thank you very much.
But you're not sharing information, sir. You're hiding information. That's the reason we're here.
I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
A Pennsylvania lawmaker wants school nurses to be able to give students prescribed marijuana. The reasoning behind it right after the break.
The drip of information about a system of migrant child trafficking inside the United States continues to send shockwaves through Capitol Hill. I'm Christine Frizzau with what we're learning.
And dry weekends in April, not really our strong suit. Take a look at the calendar and you'll see what I mean. Significant rain not only on the first Saturday of the month, but also on the third and fourth Saturday of the month. And it looks like we're going to get it again this weekend. Really just not a whole lot of rain otherwise during the month of April. So we are in a moderate drought, so we could use some rain. I'm tracking it for you all the way through your weekend in my Weather Authority forecast.
Tough questions in Congress today about migrant children who have been placed into questionable homes and then forced to work.
And the Biden administration is accused of missing or ignoring the signs.
National correspondent Christine Frizzau reports.
There are reports of more and more migrants arriving to the southern border every day, though thousands aren't waiting for the public health policy Title 42 to expire on May 11th.
We are now averaging about 1,000 migrants a day crossing through areas like Brownsville, Texas.
Those concerns compounded by new reports detailing a system rife with migrant child trafficking inside the United States, backed by Health and Human Services volunteer turned whistleblower Tara Lee Rodas in testimony on Capitol Hill. She also spoke to Sinclair.
We're helping these case managers who have these crying children, the children saying they don't know the sponsor. The sponsor, when we're asking questions, can't give definitive information about the address where the child is going.
While the U.S. works to place children with family members, the director of the Office of Refugee Resettlement did testify its authority ends when a child is discharged to a vetted sponsor.
ORR does not monitor or track the whereabouts of children after they are released from our care.
Still, Rodas says she was stonewalled when she tried to speak out about children being placed with questionable sponsors.
The response to me was, Tara, we only get sued if we keep kids in care too long. we don't get sued by traffickers.
Republicans say they'll continue to look into this and have also introduced new immigration proposals, including a plan to restart border construction and one that restricts asylum eligibility. Plans Democrats criticize as non-starters.
I think perhaps they're good messaging bills for the Republican base, but it does nothing on a bipartisan basis to sit down and fix our broken immigration system.
An immigration system with major cracks expected to be pushed to the brink in a matter of weeks. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
I feel like a prisoner. I feel that I can't enjoy my home.
It's a story you're seeing first on Fox. A Baltimore woman tells Fox 45 she's afraid to leave her home, what it was like feeling like a prisoner.
New mortgage rules from the Biden administration reward those with bad credit and punish those with good credit. I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington, and coming up, we take a look at how these changes will impact monthly mortgage rates.
We are following three big stories at 10:30.
The Biden administration is making changes to mortgage rules, why some say it's punishing people with good credit.
A case of what some are calling vigilante justice in Prince George's County left a 17-year-old dead. How it all comes back to the recent rise in stolen Kia and Hyundai cars.
A story you'll only see on Fox 45 News. A woman who lives in Northeast Baltimore says she feels like a prisoner in her own house. She says drug dealers have taken over her neighborhood.
I've seen a lot of the pieces that you all have done holding our city officials accountable. I like that. We need that right now.
And we begin there. That woman telling Fox 45 News she's afraid to leave her home.
Fox 45's Maxine Stryker has the exclusive story.
This is not easy for me to talk to you right now.
When this woman, who didn't want to be identified out of fear of retaliation, moved to Forest Park, she says she felt safe.
It was quiet and friendly.
But now?
I'm afraid to come out of my house and sit because of the activity that goes on up, on that corner. It's scary.
She's a hostage in her own home.
I feel like a prisoner. I feel that I can't enjoy my home, the place I pay taxes for. where I live, where my family lives, and I feel trapped.
She says there's constant drug activity along Chelsea Terrace between Fairview and Norfolk Avenue.
It can be 5 of them, or sometimes I've seen 25 of them.
And she says often the men are preying on young children.
Once I saw a child who looked to be about 8 years old. I've seen adults pull up in cars and then hand backpacks to these kids. You know, they're using them.
Over the years, she says she's called police many times, but it hasn't stopped.
I'm angry because this doesn't have to be this way.
She's even considered moving.
I'm a tax-paying citizen. I pay income taxes. I pay property tax. I pay, tax when I buy something in the state. And I am paying for elected officials to just basically tell me, like, oh well, you have. I feel like they've left us, like they don't care, or if they do care, they're not doing anything about it.
Feeling like there's no help from city leaders,
I'd like to see them stop stunting and pontificating and actually do something. Stop trying to profile and look good and be friends to criminals. I mean, give them more rights than they give the tax-paying, law-abiding citizens in this city.
Her only hope now is her story.
Get these drug dealers off the corners. Stop these kids from being used. Give us some peace.
Her cries for change.
It's important, and it's so, if I'm gonna die on a hill, it's gonna be this one.
Will finally be heard.
Pray that it doesn't go that way, but this is the one.
Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Open-air drug markets have been a problem in Baltimore City for years. Our cameras have caught what appears to be open-air drug dealing before, like this in West Baltimore more than a year ago. Fox 45 News has heard from frustrated city council members as well.
You need to prosecute these lower-level crimes because it always escalates. You go from minor possession, selling, distribution, leads to shootings, leads to homicide.
Myself and other elected leaders have raised the alarm about that, and we will continue to ask BPD to put the necessary resources in place.
Fox 45 News asked police what they're doing to crack down on open-air drug markets. A spokesperson responded in a statement saying the city works with several partners to provide addiction treatment and hold drug trafficking organizations accountable. The statement goes on to say police are making arrests. They point to recent takedowns of drug trafficking groups. You can find the full statement in the story on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Well, the U.S. Attorney for Maryland, Eric Barron, says he and other partners will soon announce some new initiatives that will add to his three-pronged approach to combating violence in Baltimore City. Those 3 initiatives include a new violent and organized crime section of the U.S. Attorney's Office, a focus on gun cases that violate the federal school zone statute, and an Al Capone method of prosecution, which targets repeat violent offenders by taking them off the street for any and all wrongdoing. Now, Barron says this model is growing.
Be surrounding mostly enforcement and accountability, gun offenses and prevention, and how we can work in tandem together to better hold individuals accountable, not just on the federal side, but on the state and local side as well.
Fox 45 News spoke with Barron about the expanding plan during a job reentry fair he held with the city-state's attorney to help those who have been in the system find resources. Barron says the fair is part of the comprehensive approach to reducing crime. It's not clear when he will officially announce the new parts of his crime-fighting plan.
Adnan Syed is asking the Appellate Court of Maryland to reconsider its decision to reinstate his conviction. Syed's conviction was vacated last September after spending more than 2 decades in prison. The appeals court reinstated it last month after Heyman Lee's family petitioned the court about the way the conviction was vacated. In today's filing, Syed's attorneys argue Lee's brother failed to show how the outcome of September's hearing would have been different had he been present in court. Fox 45 News has been following the Syed case closely for months. You can find all of our reporting on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Massive damage at a gas station in Essex after an attempted ATM theft. As you can see, the car went right into the gas station on Back River Neck Road. Baltimore County police say it happened just before 2 a.m. Gas station employees tell us 5 people inside the car tried to make off with the ATM, but they could not move it. So they took the cash register instead. No one was injured during the robbery.
Howard County police are investigating after they say 10 disability placards were stolen out of cars in one night. One was stolen in Columbia. The 9 others were stolen from a few neighborhoods off Route 1 in Elkridge. Police say it's likely one person or a small group of people are responsible, but it's not clear why they were stolen. Howard County's police says it's not a trend because it happened just one overnight period.
Well, Prince George's County, like many areas in Maryland, is dealing with a huge number of stolen Kias and Hyundais this year. And now police believe a murder might be connected to this trend. Brad Bell with our Sinclair sister station in D.C. has the story for us.
His father says he's not a violent person. He doesn't believe his son could commit a murder.
He's been working the past 7-8 years, just trying to keep his head above water.
But yesterday, police charged 27-year-old Charles Edwards with the murder of 17-year-old Daewoo Flomo. It's alleged that back on February 11th, just after midnight, as Edwards sat in his Hyundai next to his house here in Landover Hills, Flomo pulled up in what sources say was a stolen Kia. Court documents allege Flomo approached Edwards' car, then ran to the Kia when he saw Edwards. Sources say police believe Flomo intended to steal the Hyundai. Edwards' dad says,
"We don't know what they were doing. They had on masks. That's evil intention right there. You don't come with masks on."
According to those court documents, Edwards says he took off after the Kia and here along Parkwood fired one shot at the car before circling back home. Police allege that shot fatally wounded the 17-year-old, shown here in a fundraising appeal posted by his father. The stolen Kia with Flomo driving, crashing, a law enforcement source telling us the whole incident likely a result of that fad of stealing Kias and Hyundais colliding with the anger of being victimized, as well as the prevalence of guns on the streets.
They've been terrorizing the neighborhood pretty, stealing cars. This isn't the first incident. It's gotten very bad around here.
According to the PGPD, so far this year, 799 Hyundais and 474 Kias have been stolen for a total of 1,273 cars. That works out to 11 cars taken per day, every day, just in Prince George's.
People sitting in their cars and they still come and trying to steal your cars. You're just not safe out there.
Well, taking a look now at the Fox box, top left, a Pennsylvania state representative wants school nurses to be able to give students prescribed medical marijuana and CBD. State law currently only allows parents to. The lawmaker says he believes his bill would take the burden off parents.
Top right, a new study shows melatonin gummy products are often mislabeled. Researchers tested 25 of the sleep aid products and found 22 were not accurately labeled. Most contained significantly more melatonin than labeled.
Bottom left, a transgender athlete is apologizing after receiving backlash for running in the female category of the London Marathon and says she was fueled by, quote, girl power. Glenique Frank apologized for entering under the female category before completing gender transition surgery. There was a non-binary division for the first time.
The bottom right, Disney is suing over Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' takeover of Disney's special district. The company calls it retaliation for their protest of the so-called Don't Say Gay law. DeSantis says no rules were broken. GOP presidential candidate and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley took to Twitter offering Disney a new home, writing, quote, South Carolina's not woke, but we're not sanctimonious about it either.
Biden administration is making changes to mortgage rules, and some say it punishes people with good credit in an effort to increase access to home ownership. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins joins us from Washington.
Those in the market to buy a new home will soon find it pays off to have bad credit. A new rule raises rates for borrowers with good credit to subsidize lowering rates for high-risk borrowers. People with credit scores above 680 who put 20% down will pay the most.
This is a direct transfer of wealth and direct transfer of credit from those who have been responsible to those who have been less responsible.
Federal Housing Finance Agency Director Sandra Thompson says the changes, quote, advance their mission of facilitating equitable and sustainable access to home ownership. Former Obama Housing Chief David Stevens calling the move unprecedented.
We can do better programs to help more minorities get into home ownership. This is not the way to do it.
Stevens calculates that someone with a $400,000 loan at a 6% interest rate with a good credit score will end up paying $40 more per month. Now that adds up to $14,400 on a 30-year loan.
There really is some evidence that, at least at the margins, our attempts at the governmental level to get more people into homes as buyers really backfired on the way up to the global financial crisis. We have an interest in getting people into homes, sure, but we also have an interest in not having people take out mortgages or other loans they can't afford.
Mortgage broker Ali Jelensik says education for these high-risk borrowers is key.
We have people who are maybe first-time home buyers or haven't been able to buy in the past because of poor credit, and they're coming to me saying, hey, am I able to get pre-approved now? To make sure that people know what they're getting themselves into. So there's definitely a bigger emphasis on educating on what the full process looks like.
Jelensik also pointing out that while the rules officially go into effect May 1st, most lenders already made these adjustments months ago to get ahead of the changes. Home buyers already feeling the effects. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Lawmakers in the House pass a debt limit bill, but it still has a